So last time on the show, we looked at the big question, the elephant in the room. Is wrestling real? And if you didn't see that episode, click the link in the description below to check it out. If you did watch, however, you'll probably notice we're in a bit of a different format now. No more narration over clips, thanks YouTube, and also thanks to my crazy hectic life schedule for not allowing me to edit these full time yet. Thanks a bunch. As I mentioned, last week we tackled the big elephant in the room, but today we're talking about the other obvious question. Why the hell do we love wrestling so much? Well, fear not, soon to be Smarks, let's learn the ropes. So, seeing as how this is a pretty broad and subjective topic, let's go ahead and break down our reasoning for watching sweaty men in tights hug each other for about 20 minutes at a time into 3 categories: the superstars, the stories, and the experience. The superstars of WWE are the faces of the company in many ways. In most cases, these guys and gals are the reason we started watching in the first place. Their larger-than-life personalities, memorable gimmicks, and lasting clashes with each other are the most obvious reason to tune in. The stars of WWE are some of the most captivating, infectious, and inspirational people in the world. And there's truly something for everyone. You like goody two-shoe clean-cut baby faces? Watch John Cena. You like rebels? Maybe some Stone Cold Steve Austin or CM Punk. Fancy an underdog story? Then Daniel Bryan's your man. But what about dominating ass kickers? Former UFC champ Brock Lesnar will do just nicely. And the list goes on. Even with certain styles of wrestling. Maybe you want the more stereotypical car crash style of wrestling. Well, then you can go check out the TLC Tag Team Classics or Mick Foley's clashes with Triple H in the early 2000s, and you'll see superstars that embody that more hardcore style of WWE. But on the flip side, there's the more technical style of wrestling. This is your Kurt Angles, your Eddie Guerreros, your aforementioned Daniel Bryans. And if you want to get into your story-driven matches, few do it better than Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and The Undertaker. And even though each wrestler has their strong points, every true WWE superstar can do it all. You'll see them weave seamlessly from being no-nonsense badasses to being goofy comedy relief. From arrogant narcissists to honor-bound anti-heroes. Even if sometimes the acting is a bit stilted and the lines admittedly corny, these guys put on memorable performances both on the mic and between the ropes, and train tirelessly to be able to do so. And that effort is apparent in some of the most badass feats of athleticism you'll ever see. In short, these men and women are damn fun to watch, and the stories they put on are even better. Except when they're not. But for the most part, the stories of WWE are just as much a reason to watch as any. Now, WWE has often been called a soap opera with body slams, and while there are striking similarities between the two with the larger-than-life angles, insane jumps in logic, and again, some iffy acting and writing, you shouldn't really compare these two. Another fatal mistake is to try and compare WWE to other sports. Don't do it, bro. Just don't do it. Because WWE relies heavily on its own rules and lore, which we'll get into next time around, and logic isn't always at the forefront. Sports are fairly straightforward. Each player or team is doing everything they can to win. In UFC, each fighter wants to beat his opponent. But you can't view WWE with this lens, or else you'll do nothing but nitpick every gap in logic that comes your way. Instead, it's better to view WWE as a show, akin to Game of Thrones. You have your main players, your lovable supporting cast, your despicable villains, your lovable villains, various alliances, multiple swerves and betrayals, romances that blossom and crumble, and a million storylines continuing, starting, and stopping, creating a vast universe with such a deep history that you literally need something like Wrestling 101 to truly understand it all. And just like in Game of Thrones, while you may not enjoy every character or story, for the most part, if you're invested, it's more than made up for with the times it's done properly. Another reason WWE is more like a TV show is the structure, with weekly shows culminating in pay-per-views, where story arcs are either resolved or heightened. You have your B pay-per-views, which can serve as a sort of mid-season climax, and then you have the Big Four pay-per-views, which are more like season finales. wrapping up certain storylines and kickstarting new ones, teasing ones to come in the future, with the granddaddy of them all being WrestleMania. With such memorable characters putting on great matches, the stories provide context for them. Contrary to popular belief, we don't just like to watch muscly guys bump around. Usually, we're watching to see how the stories play out. And while I'll save some of the more high-profile stories for a later series down the line, suffice it to say, WWE has a long catalog of engaging, suspenseful, unpredictable, and most of all, memorable storylines that keep fans coming back for more. And speaking of those fans, it's time to talk about the experience of it all. And to start, I'll read you what my friend Rob posted a while back. See, I prompted my wrestling friends with a basic question of, why do you love wrestling? And this was Rob's response. I was 5 years old when I started watching wrestling, so I can say it's basically been a part of my entire life. As I got older and began going to the events and liking my favorite wrestlers, it was around 9 years old when I truly discovered how real wrestling was. I laugh about this today because many people who I meet or become friends with always explain to me how they used to really watch wrestling until they found out it was quote-unquote fake. They didn't fully enjoy knowing that the matches were predetermined and that the storylines were not real and were only created by some writers. I always find it funny because finding out that it was fake is probably the exact reason why I began to slowly fall in love with it. I enjoy the storytelling, and I enjoyed and appreciated wrestlers for risking their lives just to tell us a story and keep us entertained. So when I discovered exactly what is and isn't real, I began to grow more appreciation for these wrestlers. As I was getting older, my father would always demean wrestling and remind me how no one watches it anymore. He would go on to explain how grown-ups don't watch wrestling and that wrestling is for little kids. He was actually proven wrong almost every year of my life because I always met many great people in this world who still watched wrestling just as much as I do, but also secretly hid it because their parents also told them the same thing. If I look back at it today, I'd have to say that wrestling has actually been a huge part of my life. I would go so far as to say it's the reason why I'm truly involved in theater and storytelling. Wrestling is a part of my career and the dreams that I have of my life. Wrestling is the reason for many of my friendships. It's built many relationships that I thought I would never have with many of my friends that I have today. I enjoy it so much because it's been there for me when I need it the most, when I wanted to get my mind off things, when I wanted to build friendships, and so much more. What warms my heart the most about wrestling is WrestleMania itself. Every year around that time, you see everyone around the world, via Facebook or anywhere, throwing up their predictions and opinions and watching the show as if they're watching the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals. That alone shows that wrestling is still a part of them. Wrestling is a part of our society, whether we want to admit that or not. And he goes on to say, it took me until last year to realize how emotional I get when talking about it because it's been such a huge part of my life. It's like if you looked up the definition of Robbie Miles, one of the first things you'll probably see is that I'm a huge wrestling fan. And really, that kind of sums it up. Like any form of entertainment, it inspires us, it distracts us from our day-to-day. It becomes a part of our makeup, and even its terrible reputation adds to its allure. This is something that's ours, that not everyone will understand or appreciate, but we do, and we bond over that. Like Rob said, you'll see people from all over the world debate certain stars and storylines and decisions and try to predict what will happen, even offering their own fantasy booking. WWE is unique from any other sport because of this. Its predetermined nature doesn't take away from why we like it, it adds something to it. Why is this person getting pushed when this guy isn't? Why did they end the match that way? Who should hold the title and for how long? Hell, as antisocial as I am, I've commented countless times on Facebook pages, arguing points and offering insight. It's a great way to bring all sorts of people together. And ultimately, for this, as well as the other reasons I talked about, this is why we love wrestling. Thank you for watching the latest edition of Wrestling 101. If you enjoyed this, click that like button and subscribe for more content. And if you know another jabroni that might like this, go ahead and share it as well. As always, I've been your resident marksman, TJT, and I'll catch you guys next time.